Alright, hi. In this video I'm going to be making a vim9script plugin. Alright, so let's talk about what the plugin will do. Oh, and by the way, the version of Vim I'm using right now is 8.2. In the future, some of the syntax and the semantics of the plugin that I'm going to be writing right now will be different from the final version of vim9script, but fundamentally it should be the same process. At this point in time, there are no classes or inheritance or interfaces in vim9script, but that doesn't really matter right now. Okay, so the plugin that we're going to be writing is a plugin to define words. And we're going to do that using some sort of online API that already has all the definitions of words, so we don't have to overload our plugin with a huge database of words. And because our plugin is going to be making some sort of outgoing request, we don't want to block Vim from running. So what we're going to do is we're going to use jobs to make our program asynchronous. And we're going to have a job that starts curl. So curl is a program that handles like network requests, and it's going to be good. So that's that. We're going to make it asynchronous. It's going to use an API. It's going to define words. And the final thing is that once it gets all the definitions of a word, because a word could have multiple meanings depending on the part of speech, it's going to post the definitions to the Quickfix list along with the part of speech. All right. So yeah, this should be a pretty good introduction to vim9script and asynchronous Vim9 programming and working with online APIs. All right, so now that we know that, let's get started. All right, so I'm in a directory and I'm going to make a new directory for the plugin. So I'm going to call it DefineWord. Sounds good. All right, now I'm going to go there. And I guess we can write the script, okay, which I will also call DefineWord.vim. Okay, so for any Vim9 script, for Vim to understand the Vim9 syntax, the first statement of the script has to be Vim9 script. So this just tells Vim that it should be using Vim9 script syntax and compilation and whatnot. All right, so first things first, we need to find a good API to use that we will fetch our definitions from. So if I just hop over to my browser right here, and we can look up some public APIs. Okay, this looks good. Let's check this out. Okay. All right, and then it's got all these categories of APIs that we can use, but we want right here dictionaries. Okay, so we can look at all these dictionary APIs, and we want one that doesn't require any authentication, because just so we can integrate it easily. And we don't want any we want English dictionaries. So we can check out this one. I guess we'll check out this one, and let's take a look. All right, so okay. All right, nice. So it spits out JSON data, which is really helpful for us because in our Vim script we can decode that and turn it into a Vim dictionary object. All right, and we use it like this. All right, so let's try it out. All right, so let's try the word apple. All right, great. So we get all this this JSON information. We get the word, some meanings with the part of speech. Okay, good. All right, so and I guess we'll check out this one too. I don't even want to read this. Okay, yeah, we'll use this. All right, so I'm going to copy this link. And let me go over to my terminal. All right, so I'm going to move in Windows. I'm just going to make a constant. In Vim9, to make a constant, well, there's 3 ways to declare a variable. There's var, final, and const. And they each do different things. But if you want a value that can't be reassigned and the value cannot be changed or modified, you want to use const. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm just going to call this API and make a string, and we'll lob that in there. All right, great. Okay, so now that we have our API, let's write, basically our main function, which I'm going to call DefineWord. And it's going to take in a word, which is a string, and it's not going to return anything. Okay, so now that we have this, so we knew before that our API works by using this and then just throwing the word on at the end. So that's what we're going to do. But we're going to have to use curl to get our information. All right, so let me open up a little help window right here on jobs. So what are we going to be using our jobs, and in particular this function right here, job start. And this is a pretty simple function, and you just give the command, like a shell command to run. In our case it's going to be curl, and a few options. And the options are going to be our callbacks for when there is data received or when the process is finished. So we can actually take a look at all those options. I think it's job options. Here we go. What we're going to be using is the out callback and not the close callback, but the exit callback. All right, so I guess I'll just leave this open here for reference. So we have to build our commands. So our command is going to be an array. I'll just call it command like this. And we know we're going to call curl. And I'm going to give it the silent flag so that there isn't a little progress bar while it's downloading the information, because that's going to get captured in the standard out from Vim, and we don't want that. We just want the actual output from the query. Okay, and then really all we're going to do is just run this, pass in our API, and then string concatenate that with our word. So that's our command basically. I could type annotate this, as a list of strings, because that's what it is, but we don't have to, because Vim9 is going to infer that from the right hand side of the equal sign. So once we have our commands, we can call our job start. And let me fix that. Job start. I'm just going to assign it to a variable job, just in case we want to do something with that job later on. All right, so we know job start is just going to take the commands. Right here it says a command can be a list, where the first item is the executable and further items are the arguments. And that's exactly what we have here, and we're just going to use that. So we're going to call job start on that, and then we need to give it some options. And I'm just going to write this as a little nice dictionary. All right, so what's going to happen is, we're going to call this function DefineWord, and we're going to start this job. And when there is data to read on the job, So that's going to be, let me just remember what they're called again. Owl callback. Okay, so we're going to use our owl callback. And we're going to assign this to a function called onResponse, which we haven't made yet. And we are going to add a onError callback, just in case something goes wrong, we can know how to handle it. All right, so let's start picking this apart. So our function onResponse, let's define that. And it says right here that this callback, whatever you assign as the callback function, it needs to take the channel of the job and the message. So we're not going to use the channel, but we have to pass it we have to make it a parameter here. Okay, so I'm just going to do this. I'm going to say the channel and the message, and this is going to be a string. And it's not going to return anything. It's just going to handle the message that we got as a response. And that's exactly what this message variable is. Okay, so if we got a message, let's take a look at what the information looks like. All right, so we're on this API, and okay, so this is what it's going to look like, the general form of a response. It's going to be an array. Actually, let me open it up in the nice dev tools. All right, so it's an array with the first entry being the word. Is there a second entry now? Okay, so first entry is word. We have some phonetics with pronunciation audios and stuff. Very cool. And we want to hit the meanings. So we're going to get the first thing. We're going to decode this JSON into a Vim object, and then we're going to get the meanings of that. And then, okay, so now this is also an array. Okay, cool. So this is an array with this one right here is all of the nouns, all the definitions of all the nouns that this could be. And this is all the verbs, and I guess, other words would be, adjectives, prepositions, whatever. Okay, so we want to hit this meanings. So we're going to do that. All right. Let's do that. Move over. All right, so on the response, what we want to do is decode this JSON string. Let me just see what this returns. And we're going to store it into a little variable called JSON, a const, because we're not going to be modifying it at all. Okay. All right, so I guess right now we haven't even tested anything. We've written all this code and we haven't tested a single thing. So right now I'm just going to echo out this JSON, and at the beginning of this script, or the first actual statement of the script, we're just going to call DefineWord. And we're going to pass in the word apple. Okay, so I have leader M mapped to sourcing this file, or my current file, so I could test out Vim scripts. And the good thing about Vim9 is that when you run a script and then you run it again, a Vim9 script again, it forgets about all the previous defined functions and variables and starts fresh each time. So like if I ran this script twice in the same session, it won't give me an error saying API was defined twice. So it's really helpful when you are testing scripts. So I'm going to source the script. Oh yeah, we haven't implemented on error. So let's do that real quick. Actually, let's just comment this out. All right, source it again. All right, so that's been sourced. And what's going on? Oh, there we go. So it looks like, let me just run this like this. Let me just check messages. Here, let me echo this as a message. Run this. Okay, there we go. So this is our response. This is a Vim, like a, this is a Vim variable. It's no longer just a text JSON response. All right, so we have, okay, great. Let's start picking this apart. So we knew this was an array. So we're going to take the first entry, and we want to hit meanings there. So let's do that. All right, so we got meanings, and now this is also an array, and it has each entry of this array is all the associated meanings for a part of speech. So one will be noun, and then all the meanings for the nouns that are the word apple, and verbs for some reason for the word apple, but yeah, so that's what we're working with. So so this is something we want to iterate through, and we want to grab every definition. You can see the definitions right here as a part of each object, and that's also a list. So let's grab that. Let's hit the first one and grab definitions. What the heck did I do? All right, there we go. Source this again. And I spelled definitions wrong. Okay, so now another array. Definition, blah, 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 definition. Okay, whatevs. All right, so now we know what we probably want to iterate through. We want to iterate through the meanings, and we want to iterate through the definitions of each meaning. Great, so I'm just going to keep this right here, comment this out, and we can start doing that. Okay, all right, so for meaning in JSON 0 meanings, okay, let me just close this out. All right, so for each meaning, we are going to be, I totally just forgot what I was just about to do. We wanted to grab the definitions, right? Let's just go back quickly here and see what's going on. So for each meaning, which is right here, we're going to grab the part of speech, and then the definitions we're going to iterate through and grab each definition dot definition. That's basically what we're going to do. Okay, so let's do that. So for each meaning in the meanings, I'm just going to assign some variables here. So part of speech is equal to meaning dot part of speech. Great. What's next? And then const det. Well, we can't do that. I'll just leave that as it is. And then we want to iterate through each definition in meaning dot definitions. Great. Okay, so let me close this off again. So for each definition, meanings of definitions, we want to get the definition dot definition. It's a little wordy, but okay. And that's what we want, right? And we said we wanted to post these to the Quickfix list. So we need to start storing these in a way that is good to work with. So what I'm going to do is just create a final variable. I'm just going to call it lines, and it's going to be an array. And I think for this, so in the Quickfix list, when we have all the definitions, I think what would also be nice is to have the actual word be the first line, so that when you're going through definitions, you remember what word you searched for. It sounds good. So what I'm gonna do is, so we know in our response, if we hit the dot word, we can grab the word right there. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. So right here, we're going to say, we're gonna start this array with just JSON 0.word. Okay. So the difference between final and const is const you cannot reassign, and const you cannot modify the value. But final in vim9script works sort of like const in JavaScript, where you cannot reassign it, but you can modify the value. So like for an array, you can add elements, you can modify elements, but I couldn't take this lines variable and assign it to an empty array, even though the types are the same. You can't do that because it's strict in just what it was assigned to. All right, cool. So what are we going to add to our lines array? So we want to add something that looks like this. We want to say, the part of speech, and then the definition. So right here, we are going to add to our array lines what the line actually is going to be. So what did we say? We said open parentheses, close parentheses. We're going to concatenate that with our part of speech. And I'm actually going to throw an extra space right here. And then we're going to add our definition. Looks good. All right, I get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of all this. Cool. Great. Okay, so once all this code is run, we have all the information we need, and we can confirm that by echoing out our lines. So let's source this, not convert dict to string, and that's because we're hitting definition when we should be hitting definition.definition. Great. So nice. So we can see right down here, our first line is the word that we're looking for, and then we have noun, blah, 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 verb, to become apple-like. All right, great. So that's what we have. All right, so now that we have this, what we want to do is set the Quickfix list. Oh, I botched that. Quickfix list. All right, and there is a function to do that in vim9script called setQFList, and it's a little weird, but I mean, maybe they have some examples. Here we go. What we want to do, let's take a look at this. We want lines. So we're going to call the function sort of like how they're calling it here. All right, so let's do that. So we're going to call setQFList. And I've been doing it this whole time, but it's a pretty important difference between vim9script and vim9script. You don't have to do this. You don't have to say call and then a function. You can simply just write the function like you would literally any other programming language, which is really nice. So we're going to set the Quickfix list, pass in this empty array. I think let's go back to this function because the second argument's a little confusing. Each setQFList. So we need to give it an action. A corresponds to add to the existing list. R stands for replace. And F, blah, 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 whatever. We want R because we want to replace the entire contents of the Quickfix list. So let's pass that in. R and then we pass in a couple extra options. And the options we're going to do is we're going to pass in lines, and we're going to pass in our lines. And we can actually look up what's going on here. Here we go, lines. So this is just going to add each line of that list that we've created to the Quickfix list. Okay, this is looking pretty promising. Let's run this again. All right, open the Quickfix list. Boom, nice. So we have our word, and then we have all of our definitions right here. Pretty cool. So let's handle an error. So we have this, actually let me come over here and I'll comment that. So on an error, if our job, something goes wrong in our job, we're running the curl command and it fails, maybe, there was a network error, the API is down or whatever, we want to handle that. So to create this on error, and we can take a look at what functions this callback uses, the channel and the message as well. Okay, so let's implement that. The channel and the message as a string. Okay, and really all we want to do here is echo an error saying, I don't know, job failed, and then we will add our message. Sounds good, sounds promising. Great, we'll save that. And I guess we can test this if we kind of botch our command right here and we run it. And for a second there, it showed the error message. So, looks good to me. All right, so, and now what we want to do, once we set the Quickfix list, I think it's also good to open it. You can decide whether or not this is a good idea, but I feel like it's pretty intuitive to call this, and then once we're done and the Quickfix list is set, we want to also open it. So I'm just going to run copen here. I'm skipping out on a few error handling routines, but maybe I'll implement those in a few minutes. We'll see. All right, so let's run this again. Boom. Okay, so we can close that. Now, there is something that we should be concerned about if the, you're trying to define a word that might not show up in the API. We have to see what happens. So let's go over to the browser and let's take a look. So let's say maybe instead of apple, we hit, this. This is not a word. All right, so instead of getting an array, we just get an option. We get an object with three keys. Okay, so we don't really have to parse this at all. We can just, in our program, we can just check if our response got decoded as a list. All right, so I think that'll be good enough to handle any error with finding the words. So let's do that. Okay, so right here, we decode our JSON, and let's just add a quick check. So we say, how should we do this? I think there's a function called type. Okay, great. So here we can find the actual type of the variable. So if this is valid JSON, or if it's valid, it's a valid word, it's a response for a valid word, it's going to be an array. But if the type of this response is not equal to, I'm just going to use this constant right here, vt list. What we want to do is we just want to echo. We don't need to echo an error, I don't think, because that's a little dramatic. What we can just say is sorry, couldn't find a definition for this word. Definition for, and then you know what, I'm just going to create the word right here. Actually, you know what, let's just do it like this. Let's just say sorry, no definition found. Great. Okay. So that's good. So let's source this. And okay, I have to change the word. So let's say, we use that same word we used before. Let's run this. Key not present. Well, we should return. We have to return after doing this. That's my bad. So let's run this again. And great. Sorry, no definition found. Cool. Okay, let's change this back to a word. And so that's pretty much the logic of it. Now we just have to make it work like a Vim plugin. Because, the user's not going to be calling functions like that. So I guess we'll make a command, and we'll call it DefineWord. And we have two ways of doing this. We could have the user pass, the word as an argument, and then that would, call our function. But the other way, which is the way I'm probably going to do it, is just define the word that the user has their cursor hovered over. And we can get that by doing something like this. Say I'm hovered over the word command. If I echo the function expands, and here we're going to expand this thing called C-word, which is cursor word, that will return us the word that we're looking for. So I think that's what we're going to do with this function, or this command. So we want to vim9 this command vim9 is going to run vim9 code after the command. So it's just more consistent with our script. So we're going to vim9. Actually, we can't do that. We can't do that. What we have to do is we have to exec, because we need to build up a line of code. So we're going to exec vim9 define word, and then we're going to concatenate oh god, this is getting messy. C word, concatenate that back. I think that should be good. Yeah. I have to get rid of this because we're gonna have to test it. Let me source this again. So say we call define word. Okay, so it did work, but we are not quoting the word. We have to quote the word. So let's do that. Oh goodness, it's so ugly looking, but it works. Cool. All right, so it's been sourced. So let's try it again. So I'm going to try, my cursor is highlighted over the word command. So I'm going to call this define word. Great. So now we got all the responses for the word command. All right, so if I try, ndef, which, isn't a word in English at least. So we call that. Sorry, no definition found. Nice. Okay. Okay, so now we have a command, which is great, but I mean, it's Vim. You don't want to always be typing out a full command. Say we want to create a mapping for it. So, you do that just like you would in a regular vim9script plugin. So we're just going to do an n no remap, and we're going to map it to leader DW, define word. Sounds good. And what we're going to do is we're just going to call define word. Sounds good. And then press enter. Okay, great. I mean, that's an awkward keybind, DW, but it's a mnemonic, so it's fine. Vim loves mnemonics. Everything's got to be mnemonic. All right, so let's try this out. So we sourced it, and say we wanted to find channel. I'm going to press leader DW. Great, channel has been defined. Nice, okay, sounds good. All right, I mean, that looks like a pretty good plugin to me. We have, you know, all of our logic. We use asynchronous. We use jobs. We make the program asynchronous. We have a command. We have, you know, a nice keybind for it. And you know, different from a regular Vim script, we don't have to do all the BS with, you know, like CPO save or whatever equals that, and then restoring it, and we don't have to do, you know, if exists g loaded or whatever. We don't have to do that with this. That's all handled internally, which is really nice. And now we just have a nice vim9script plugin. And you know, this would be easy to extend functionality to, because the response that we got from our API also has synonyms, antonyms. If you wanted to get only verbs, if you wanted to get only nouns, stuff like that, you could, which is really neat. And also, if you wanted to, you know, get the pronunciations and stuff, you could do that. You know, the possibilities are really limitless. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed just watching the process of making a vim9script plugin. I know I didn't cover everything. I probably didn't cover enough, but this is the general flow, and I think it's a fun language to write code in. I really do. I think it's a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks for watching.